Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it looks like Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus might be in trouble. There's word that there are extensive reshoots, and this is like, what, a year after they filmed it?
Yeah, it started filming in November of 2020. They wrapped up in May of last year, and now they're going back and doing reshoots in, I guess, 2 weeks. You know, and reshoots are normal. They do reshoots, but the word is from several sources that this is going to be extensive reshoots.
So what probably happened was they had a rough cut of some of the episodes and they screened those.
That's what I'm thinking, yes.
And they did not go well.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
You know, we've seen this happen before with other shows. You know, we talked about High Guardian Spice, and it was, you know, hid for quite some time after they did the screener. And here's the thing, there is a lot of pressure on Disney when it comes to Ms. Marvel, because this character has become sort of the face of Marvel Comics from 2015 to current year, even though the fans didn't make her the face of Marvel Comics. Marvel made her the face of Marvel Comics, and Sana Amanat, who's one of the big cheeses over there at Marvel, has made her OC the face of Marvel.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about this because I think we're going to see what happens when all of these 2015 to 2017 era Marvel characters meet the mainstream, meet the normies, and we're going to find that either they're not going to be accepted as readily as, you know, Marvel Comics authors thought they would be or thought they should be, or they're going to have to make significant changes to these characters to bring them into the mainstream.
To make them less insufferable?
To make them less insufferable, yeah. And we're going to talk about Ms. Marvel's kind of rocky road to mainstream acceptance. You know, she started out swinging with her giant and big in hands, you know, in the trade paperbacks, but her series has been canceled multiple times. They made her the poster child for the Avengers video game, which failed tremendously, huge failure. And it sounds like we're you know 3 for 3 now that she might strike out on Disney Plus too. We'll see. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 251,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. Greatly appreciate. We talk about comics, we talk about Disney, talk about animation, talk about the industry, and you know it's interesting. You know, people were talking about the MCU and how going forward, almost all the Avengers actually are going to be replaced.
Well, it's funny because this article in the direct, I mean, it's barf-inducing with the way that they show for this Phase 4 bullshit. But they tried this with the comics back, like starting around 2013 or so. I think that's when she came out. Yeah. They're basically making female counterparts for a bunch of the heroes so they can replace them. Well, they didn't work in the comics. They had to cancel them multiple times. It didn't, you say it didn't go right. It kept trying and trying. Now, they've noticed that with these characters, that the only way to make them stick has been to put them in the movies or the television shows. Hence Captain Marvel, you know, and all that shit around it. And now they're trying to make these characters stick in Phase 4, and they're getting pushback.
Yeah, and they're already making changes to Ms. Marvel. We'll talk about that. Her powers are being changed. You know, we joked before. We're like, how are they gonna show her powers on Disney Plus? Her powers basically make her body parts bigger in kind of a Reed Richards fashion. But we know that Disney Plus shows have a cut budget compared to the movies. I'm like, this is going to look ridiculous. And their solution is to change her powers. We'll show you some pics later, but she has crystal hands now.
It's like Green Lantern-esque stuff.
Yeah, and they probably didn't want to, you know, retread that because they do have a Fantastic Four movie coming out. But really, I think it was, you know, they took a look at the video game, which was photorealistic, and they're like, this is going to look ridiculous in live action. You know, we're going to have people running with this. Like, yeah, not only is the show kind of iffy, but she looks ridiculous when her hands get, you know, to be the size of a truck.
I just think it's stupid. But that's just me. I mean, I didn't read it, so I don't know. But you actually did.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about this. Yeah, there's the embiggening of her hands. They get way bigger than that, by the way. The comic book. Oh, here we go. This is her crystal power right here. So they're already making changes. I want to see what happens. I want to see what happens when all these characters, Ms. Marvel and America Chavez and Riri Williams, when they're all changed to suit the normies, it's going to be hilarious because we're going to have so many people on Twitter screaming about how they're changing these characters from the comics.
Well, changing it to be actually marketable to the general public. And I'm sorry if you don't like it, but that's the way it is.
But they spent years complaining about fanboys complaining about, you know what I'm saying? So it's going to be really interesting.
I'll still say it's all fanboys.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do.
And if the show tanks, it's going to be because of the man babies. Yeah, for sure. Not because the show's just not any good. But yeah, I read the early Ms. Marvel comics, the first couple of trade paperbacks, and it wasn't bad. It actually wasn't bad. But then it got more and more political, and more quote unquote woke, and she became an insufferable character, making some really questionable moral choices. And
her hero is an insufferable character.
Yeah. And they wound up, canceling it. I think it was, I want to say 4 times. I think her comic has been canceled because we have like Volume 3, Volume 4, and now we have Magnificent Ms. Marvel. And,
it's been canceled more than once.
Oh, God, yeah. And same with Captain Marvel. And this is what we're talking about. Like, Marvel Comics is going to make you like these characters, even if you organically don't like them. It used to be back in the day, if a comic didn't sell, the character wasn't popular, they just canceled it.
Well, that's what they tried to do. But and then they keep bringing it back. But here's the thing. They would, a couple of years ago, would have used the whole, you're an istophobic blankety blank for not liking it. But now they're starting to realize that doesn't work anymore.
No, it just drives more customers away. But here's why Ms. Marvel in particular is not going to be allowed to fail. Sana Amanat, who is a bigwig over at Marvel now. I'm not actually sure what her job is specifically, but she does seem to be the one calling most of the shots over there, and has for the last 5-6 years now. And if you go out and look at, Sana Amanat or try to Google her, all you're going to find are TED Talks about diversity in comics. Going back to 2015, we've got, places like Vox trying to prop her up as she's the secret weapon. She's a non-white
secret
woman.
Weapon. They canceled the damn. Wait. So here's what this is what made me mad. Basically, they're alluding that the reason she's where she is because she's not white and she's a woman, not because for me that would make me mad because you're implying that it's only because of diversity and because I'm not white and I'm a woman that I have my position. That's kind of what they're inadvertently doing.
She kind of came out of nowhere too. She kind of, people were like, well, what's her comic book experience? So basically she came out of nowhere. She wound up working at Marvel. Within a couple years of being there, she co-created Ms. Marvel, and Ms. Marvel, strangely enough, kind of looks like her.
Wait, was this the comic that they had the woman on it? They said, well, she was a Muslim woman doing the comic, but it was a white woman.
Well, she's a white woman who converted to Islam. Yeah. Yes. And there was some backlash about that too.
I remember the backlash.
There's backlash now, I guess. I guess whoever the writer is now, I think she's, I could be wrong, but I think she's Pakistani, but she's not a Muslim. And so now people are,
because you can
only write characters that
right. I'm just joking when I'm saying any of this because I think it doesn't matter as long as you can get the character and you understand it enough to portray the character correctly. I don't think it matters. So when I say that, I'm just pointing out the irony in the whole thing.
So there has been trouble with this show for a while. They talked about, being pushed back and delayed, and, Sana Amanat was talking about there was intense pressure to bring the character to life, and they're already making changes to her powers.
There's intense pressure to actually make it succeed and not fail.
Yeah, and this is it, because this is the end game. We're in the end game now. This is what this 2017 Marvel or 2015, I would say 2015 on, Marvel was creating these all new, all different characters to basically replace the old Marvel characters, the Avengers, and usher in a new era of comic book fandom. And now we're going to see these characters get brought into the MCU, and if it fails, that's it. It's game over. There's no coming back.
So what are they doing to accommodate this? Well, as we saw with Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, they're making them less annoying and trying to make them more mainstream when they come into the Disney Plus shows or the cinematic universe.
Yeah, because Kate Bishop, I think, was actually handled pretty well. I think she was more likable than she was in the comic books.
Well, I think it's funny because she started out thinking that she could do whatever and there would be no repercussions. And there were repercussions. So basically the whole thing was about her getting her ass saved and her being, humbled in some ways and then strengthened in others, you know what I mean? To make her, more fit for doing that job. And it wasn't like you can't correct her because she's a woman. It was actually done in a way, a really good way that she's a good character. You actually didn't mind her so much.
It really didn't. I mean, that's the thing about Hawkeye, and I know some people didn't like Hawkeye, whatever. And that's fine. You're allowed to have your opinion. We kind of held off on watching it because we'd heard people were kind of like, it's okay. But I did like the fact that they didn't constantly hit you over the head with like, I'm a woman.
Exactly.
Doing archery. Did I mention I'm a woman doing archery?
Yeah, they didn't really go there too much. It was just that here's what happened. Here's why she was the way she was. And you know, it wasn't about her being a woman.
Yeah, and she didn't have superpowers. She trained, and they had a whole montage of her spending her whole life training. So I don't, in that case, I don't. Now, obviously, the end game for that is they want Kate Bishop to replace Jeremy Renner in the MCU, but I'm also like, his version of Hawkeye is getting up there, and he's not going to be around forever.
Right, but at least, I mean, they handled it in a way that the character was done as, it was a good story with a good character, and it wasn't all about, because I'm a woman. And I thought that, I did appreciate that, because I think that we need to do that more.
Yeah, how they could have done it, and how I was afraid they were going to do it with Kate Bishop was like, yeah, I watched Hawkeye, and I realized I am so much better than him, so I'm just going to like show him what's what, and I'm going to make him look like a dumbass at every possible turn, because I am so much better than Hawkeye. No, she actually did. She was actually like, yeah, I look up to him, I respect him, and I want to be like him, and I'm gonna take a knee and learn from him.
Well, there was some dumbassery, but it was mostly involving her. But I'm like,
being an arrogant douche, and she did get her teeth handed to her.
Right, and so I mean, because it could easily have gone like the whole Mary Sue syndrome, like I'm the rich girl and everything else. But, they made sure they showed, not because she was rich, she could do the classes, but they made sure they showed that she had lost, she earned it, she worked her ass off, she had a lot of growth because she did a lot of dumb things and had to, make amends and learn. It wasn't like, I'm just me, so here I am, hand it to me.
I'm waiting for some comment on one of the Disney Plus shows or movies or whatever, have Kate Bishop in it to be like, she's like, yeah, I had to work for my mantle or whatever. It's like, no, you had privilege. You had your white, rich privilege, and that's how you got your mantle. Just like Tony Stark.
But, I'm sure they're going to hear that. But I'm just like, they took a character and they changed it to make it more relatable, to give it, to be not just about being a woman and have it, like it or not. I'm just saying they gave her more than just, I'm a girl, I deserve it. You know what I mean? And I think that's what they're going to have to do with these other characters too, because, especially America Chavez.
They've already walked back her origin, as I understand it. Now, I don't read a lot of Marvel comics these days because I think most of them are dog shit. But America Chavez has been one of the most memeable characters for years now. They actually took a character that was pretty okay when they introduced her and turned her into a laughingstock. She's some, they had her origin retcon that she was from some like lesbian alien parallel dimension utopia
thing. Right, because I told you, according to Hollywood, diversity is women and lesbians.
Yep, and she says dumb shit like this in the comics. What in the holy menstruation are you doing? Like nobody talks like this, right? There was a lot of pushback when they hired the girl to play her because they said she was too light-skinned and, she was younger than America Chavez. But what was interesting is we went from like this version of America Chavez, this like insufferable, woke America Chavez, to like they made a more traditional in the comics. They try to walk it back a little bit and kind of, return. And then as I understand it, again, I haven't read the comics in a couple of years, but as I understand, they basically retconned her entire origin, that whole lesbian utopia that she thought she was from, it was all a hallucination. She really wasn't. And they're probably doing that because when she's introduced in the Multiverse of Madness, they're going to make her probably just a teenager from Jersey, that has the power to like punch holes in dimensions or whatever the rumor is. And she's not going to be this is not what she's going to be.
Right.
They're going to make her likable. They're going to make her palatable for mainstream audiences. And what's going to happen is basically these characters are going to be these versions of the characters in name only when they come over to the MCU.
Yeah, because they're going to go for likable characters that, and help with story over, it seems like, the narrative and the push and the agenda. They may happen to not be white. They might happen to be, different religions or sexual orientations or whatever, but that's not going to be the main part about them. And they better, because if they don't, it's not going to do well, because people are just so effing tired of the political agenda pushing bullshit. They just want good stories and good characters that they can relate to. That's all they want.
You know, back in the 70s and 80s, you know, Marvel Comics were very, very diverse. And, you know, like I've said multiple times, people probably get tired of me saying it, but when I first started reading Marvel, we had a black woman in charge of the Avengers and we had a black woman in charge of the X-Men.
Did anybody think anything of it? No.
In fact, one of the first X-Men figures I bought when the toys came out for the X-Men was Storm. She was one of the first like 2 or 3 figures I bought because I love Storm, and she was the leader of the X-Men when I first started reading the comics. And nobody thought anything of it. It wasn't until the last couple of years that's like when everybody became so hyper focused on, you know, diversity and inclusion and race and gender and sexual orientation. We had North Star when I was a kid. He came out.
Well, the reason I go back to this is this article is all about that. Like over here, after over a decade of exclusively male superhero projects, which wasn't exactly true.
No.
Marvel Studios' female solo film Captain Marvel proved to be a hit. People went to it because they thought they had to. I also want to point out that there's tons of documentation out there that show empty theaters that were listed as being sold out. So there was some questionable things around that. And am I saying it wasn't actually a hit? No, it probably did well. People were like, it's MCU, we'll go see it.
We have to go see it. Right. It leads up to Endgame. Right. It's got Nick Fury and it leads up to Endgame.
And the biggest thing I remember from the shit was mostly Brie Larson's comments. Now, granted, she made them months before the movie came out, so it's not related really, but her behavior had more to do with it than anything.
That's another example of them taking the character though, making the character more palatable. Now, if they had
I still thought she was kind of hard to swallow.
Yeah, well, compared to the comic book version of Captain Marvel, they toned her down significantly. Like the comic book version was just absolutely batshit, and they toned it down.
Moving into phase 4, diversity in terms of race, gender, and religion. Well, so far I'm seeing it in terms of gender, race, religion. Yeah, basically woman, it has to be woman, not white woman, and that's what they're going with. It has to be not white woman. That was their big change. That's not really diversity either. Has been increasingly important to the MCU as upwards of 8 movies and series are led by female heroes, including Ms. Marvel. And at the end, the last paragraph really makes you want to barf. Kamala Khan has quickly grown to be an iconic Marvel hero since her recent first appearance in 2013. Given the significance a Pakistani American hero holds in terms of representation and diversity, it's important for Marvel Studios to ensure her Disney Plus series lives up to expectations. No longer how long it takes.
Yeah, so here's the thing.
It's all about diversity, but it's not.
This character, and they've been saying this for years. Like, she is artificially popular. I'm gonna come out and say it. Like, I'm not saying her comics are terrible. The early comics were okay, but lately, and again, this goes back to Sana Amanat, they will not let her fall on her ass.
Right, they get all the blogs that are their paid to play blogs, these important hit pieces about how great she is, and I guess they're puff pieces about how great she is and how wonderful she is, and she's the bestest. I swear she's the bestest. Meanwhile, they've had to reboot it how many times?
Yeah, I mean, she's at least 3 or 4 from what I can tell.
And since 2013.
And she was the lead character in Avengers, which was a really odd choice. But, again, we had a AAA Marvel title.
That's because they were trying to make her stick.
Yeah, they're trying to make her stick. They've tried to make her stick in video games. They tried to make her stick in cartoons, toys, comics, and she keeps not sticking. And a lot of it was if they had continued down the path they went when they first introduced her, that's one thing. But she became a political mouthpiece. Mm-hmm. And people basically look at Ms. Marvel and they're like, Ms. Marvel is, indicative of what is wrong with Marvel at this point in time. They're looking at her as she is the problem. It's not that she's Muslim, it's not that she's female, it's that she's an insufferable Mary Sue self-insert character, and they keep forcing people to like her.
No, they're not forcing people to like her. They keep forcing her down their throats, expecting them to eventually develop a taste for her. And unless, I'm sorry, but it's true, unless they make some changes to her so she's more like she originally was, and less like they've been making her out to be, people aren't going to like her. Hence, I think probably a lot of the reshoots.
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering. Like, how bad was this? They've already changed her powers because they probably did I'm guessing they probably did some tests and they're like, she looks ridiculous. Like, we've got this kid with these hands the size of a freaking truck. So they've already changed her powers. Presumably they're going to change her origin. And what else are they going to have to change to make this character, be acceptable to MCU audiences? Mm-hmm.
Because
the comic book version of her is like, eh.
And the thing is, it has very little to do with the fact that she's a woman or that she's, she's a Muslim woman. That has very little to do with it. It's more to do with the fact that you can be a character and a good character who happens to be diverse, but your character's cool and people like your character, or you're all about diversity, which is what this stupid article went on about right over here. The direct, constant diversity. And that's when people were like, oh, hell no. Because I know from what I've seen with Hollywood and comics prior, it's not going to be about telling a good story or having a good character. It's about, putting me in my place and learning me. Yeah. And I'm like, and the thing is, people are tired of it. Yeah, it's ridiculous. They get it. It's like the back when they had the PC culture in the 90s. It was short-lived because people got so sick and tired of it, and it was nowhere near as bad as it is now.
You can't live up to expectations of people that are always looking to be offended or outraged by something. And this is what is going to be hilarious to watch because everybody's like, look, suck it, man, babies. The MCU, this is our Marvel going forward. This is all our, you guys are a bunch of bigots and haters. They're going to change all these characters for the MCU, and they're going to screech. Well, are they though? Because that implies people actually read the comics. I'm not trying to be a bitch, but the people that read, very few people actually read these, I don't think. And the thing is, who's going to get mad? The vast majority of people are just going to take it. That's going to be their first introduction to the character, and that's what they're going to assume the character always was. It's only these diehard comic readers, which, let's be honest here, are few and far between. Because if there was a lot more of them, they wouldn't have to reboot things, and they wouldn't have so many shops shutting down. Yeah. But they're like the few people that read this book are the ones that are going to scream about it. Yeah, so Twitter's going to be ass mad, and they're going to be like, you changed Kamala Khan. She was our hero, and you changed her.
But she's still, your hero. It's just that they're going to make her a little bit less of a bitch.
I don't want to hear anything about it, because after all of our comic book characters got changed, and look, sometimes for the better, right? I could argue definitely that Robert Downey Jr.'s version of Tony Stark was much better than the comic book version of Tony Stark, who was pretty bland. His take on Tony Stark kind of became the de facto now, because everybody's like, oh, I love Tony. It's like, yeah, nobody loved Tony back in the comics. He was a rich drunk playboy. He was like a budget cut Bruce Wayne, and he was really, really bland. That's why Iron Man was always kind of like a C-list character in the comics,
Yeah.
So, sometimes those changes are for the better, but they're absolutely going to change everything. But,
well, I think in this case, the change is going to be for the better, because then you're going to make her a better character.
Yeah, so people are saying there are substantial changes. Again, this thing was supposed to be in the bag.
It's supposed to be out this year sometime. It's like She-Hulk. They have pictures of them still doing stuff for She-Hulk. And it's like, you're supposed to be out this year. She-Hulk's supposed to be out this year. Ms. Marvel's supposed to be out this year. Moon Knight's supposed to be out this year.
Moon Knight is coming out.
I would say the Moon Knight, as far as I know, is the only one that seems to be on the ball.
Well, okay, because She-Hulk has changed too. Because She-Hulk used to be this kind of fun, flirty female.
Oh, that's not allowed. It's 2022 now. And since this was greenlit like in 2018 or 2017, we have to try to go by those sensibilities where you used to say women have agency, but they really don't have agency.
Yeah, and then the writer they had working on it was the one who was roasting South Park and super ultra feminist, so that all that stuff is going to come in. So I really gotta wonder if all of these shows that they pitch, the MCU, if they're looking at them, they're like, oh, this shit is not coming together. Like, this is not going to work. People are going to be so pissed about this, or we're going to alienate half our audience. We gotta rein it in. Because Disney, at the end of the day, they got to make money, and if they're going to sell Ms. Marvel merchandise in the theme parks, they got to make a Ms. Marvel that the general public is going to like.
Right, exactly.
So very interesting that there are problems, and I don't think I think it's called course correction.
Right, and of course we don't know what the extent is, what's being changed, whatever. We don't know. I just know this movie or show has been getting a lot of shit for a while because people are just like tired of it. And after like the game and all the things that they've been doing and how they keep rebooting it and trying to make you like the character, and people already have their backs up.
Yeah.
Now the general public, I don't think does, because they're completely unaware of a lot of this.
General public doesn't know she exists.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
They don't. The closest she got to like mainstream market penetration was the video game, and it failed miserably.
So the people that played the game already have a bad taste in their mouth about this character, and there's going to be a hell of a lot of people play the game than there are that know her from the comic books.
Yeah.
So you got a problem here.
And we've already seen that the numbers on some of the Disney Plus shows are down from what they thought, and this is a character that is tied to Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel is polarizing. So it's not like we're spinning her off from Spider-Man.
The kicker is none of this had to be.
No, it didn't.
If
have
it
to
had
be
just been done as characterization and character and the movie being the story being the focus first, all of this could have been avoided. But they instead went with, especially with Captain Marvel, you know, I'm just a girl song. I'm like, are you effing kidding me?
The marketing, I mean, Captain Marvel was a very bland movie. It wasn't.
I mean, I liked it better than you did. It wasn't the worst.
It wasn't the worst.
It was a middle. It was a mid-range one, I think. I don't think it was the worst by far, but it could have been so much better if they hadn't pushed so much political bullshit and, you know, down people's throats. And then the tax and stuff on fans before it came out. There's just a lot of things that are missteps. You know what? Just do a good character and a good story and put it out there. Like they did with Kate Bishop. Like her or not, in the Hawkeye thing, I have to give them props for the fact that they didn't make it about her being a woman all the time. Because I mentioned the best, that's because I'm a woman.
Yeah, I honestly, when they announced the show, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to have like Hawkeye get kidnapped or something, and she's going to go save the day, and then she's going to be the better Hawkeye. Because a couple of years ago, yeah, that's what they've been doing. So I'm like, it's going to be Kate Bishop saving Hawkeye's ass. It's like, no. Actually, you know, she does earn it, and he has to come around to actually liking her. He doesn't like her at first.
And they actually work together. Well, that's what got me. They didn't put it at the end like she was better than him or anything like that. They did what they used to do in films, where like they were on equal footing. I mean, still I wouldn't say equal. He's still probably a little bit above her.
Oh,
but you know, I know. But I'm just saying they tried to put them more on an equal footing way. Like we saw, like, you know, people said Princess Leia. Because she was on equal footing with Han and Luke. Now, Luke was more powerful, obviously, but the characters played off each other, and it wasn't like she was beneath them or they had to be artificially lowered so she could be artificially inflated. It wasn't like that. And that they didn't used to do that. You know, steel sharpens steel. And as a woman, I hate the fact that my heroes have to be, well, it's because men suck and, you know, and women are better, and not because maybe, you know, against a man, you might hold your ground or you'd be even, or you might even be a little bit better, but you're still like on even field. I don't have to lower, you know, somebody else to make myself better. You know, that's what usually bullies do. It's not cool.
And that's it. You know, comics especially, you know, we've seen this in the media that we have people coming in and basically bullying fandoms into liking their OC characters. And
right. It's almost like you have to give the male characters a handicap to make the female characters worth watching. And that's insulting.
Or kill them.
Yeah, it's really insulting.
Make them depressed or something. And yeah, this is ending because I think especially Spider-Man, you know, gave people a fan place. Now, could you imagine under different circumstances? Obviously, it wouldn't happen because of the Sony Marvel thing. But if they introduced a good version of Kamala Khan in a Spider-Man movie, and they're just like, hey, she's actually just a cool kid, you know, with superpower, whatever. And then if she was organically popular, then you give her her own show, you give her her own movie. But in this, it was like right out of the gate, they're like, we're going to market XYZ kind of character. And it's very cynical. It's like,
XYZ kind of character means not white woman.
Yeah. And
usually lesbian or something related to lesbian somehow.
Yeah. And it's like, it's never, you know, it's not like it's sort of like, what's this character's story? Why is this character here? And instead it's like, oh no, we need a character that just happens to be these check boxes. And look at the way that the earlier Marvel stuff was done. It wasn't like we did any checkbox characters. It was just like, hey, here's a really cool character with really cool powers and a really cool origin story. It just happens to maybe be from Africa, or happens to be Catholic, or happens to be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That just fleshed out the character. But in this case, it was like, oh no, we need a non-white woman to be the face of Marvel. And we're going to make sure she's Ms. Marvel. And we have Captain Marvel now.
Who's her hero.
So we're going to...
I'm like, really?
Yeah, so we're going to call it the Marvel Universe. I think
on the nose much.
Yeah, I think the plan originally was, and this is, I blame Sana Amina, I think the plan was to make these Marvel characters bigger than Spider-Man. Like,
good luck.
They are the face of Marvel. That's why it's the Marvel Universe now, because Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, you know, and it's not working out so well. I mean, like her hands, it's all artificially inflated.
Mm-hmm. There you go. That was good. Let's end on that.
All right, so we're going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.